So, what is up? Another day. And it's raining. And it's like kind of warm. Don't move to the south. It sucks. So, I want to show you guys the car before we pull the wheels off. Because I'm getting new wheels today. And the wheels that are on the car are going on Gibbs sedan right here. And I'll show you all that here in a little bit. But the car is clearly running, hence the intro of me driving it. There's still a lot of things that I have to button up. The speedometer doesn't work. You know, there's some of the conversion harness I haven't really tied into yet, and I'm going to get a different one. I don't really want to keep the K-tune one in there. So things happen super fast after I got the engine to trans in. You know, I was like trying to really hurry up and do it because we were going to Import Alliance in Nashville. So we ended up making it. The car made it. Literally, I was putting stuff on the car that Friday, drove it home, and then immediately we went to a buddy of mine's house in Hartselle, and we put some seats in it, and then drove it to Tennessee. Like, I mean, hell, the car had probably been running 5 or 6 days. Like, it's nuts. I mean, I had no time to test the car. The only testing that I actually did was going home. That was it. It was a 30 mile drive from work to home, and the car had one seat in it. My girlfriend rode from where we live to my buddy's house in Hartselle. It's about a 45-minute drive or so, and she rode the whole way there, just kind of in the back seat, like where the back seats would be. Got the seats in, went to IA. IA was super fun. It was stupid hot also. For any of you that went, you know what I'm talking about. It was so freaking hot. But yeah, I'm going to show you the car and kind of explain a little bit about what I did to get the car running. The last video I posted was putting the fuel system together, putting the electrical together, and other than that, it was really simple. I mean, we had some hiccups, but I'm going to let you know what they were so you don't have the same ones. So what we ended up doing was that Friday, I took that Friday off to get the car, you know, buttoned up, right? So I put the car has factory GSR exhaust. If you need to get it to an exhaust shop to have it welded, you can, and you don't have to run open header. I did a 2.5 inch to 2 inch adapter. Like, I mean, it was probably 4 or 5 inches. I had a 5-inch gap in between the K-tune end collector and then the stock exhaust flange. So I put that piece in there, got some 5-inch bolts, got 3 5-inch bolts, ran them through there, and just kind of like wedged it in there as best I could, like tightening up one side at a time, you know, going around it. It was super haggard, but it got it home without it being open header. You know, it was worth it in my book. So Thursday, when I left work that evening, is when we drove home, and my buddy Gibbs followed me home to make sure it was okay. So that was the testing. Friday morning I got up, drove the car to the exhaust shop. He wasn't going to be able to get to it for about an hour, so I was like, okay, well, I'll go get the car registered. The car wasn't even in my name yet. So ran over to the tag office, got it registered, come back, got the exhaust pipe welded. He just kind of cut the flange off the stock exhaust and just moved it forward and then just welded a pipe in. And surprisingly, it doesn't sound that bad. It doesn't sound super ricey. I mean, in my opinion, it sounds pretty good. It's quiet. When it's idling, you barely hear it. It kind of sounds like a stock K-series. Like, it's really nice. So let's go look at it. The car is very dirty. You got the jack and the impact and all that stuff. So this is the hybrid racing no-cut shifter, and I think this is the first one, the first edition that they did. But I love it. I mean, it's very, very nice as far as upgrading from the stock shifter. Like, it is very notchy, you know, very short, and I've got it all the way up because I kind of got used to driving it with the factory shifter. And I liked the height. My hand was almost basically at the AC controls, and it's kind of that way again. And for some reason, I prefer it. Like I said, this thing is super dirty. Sitting under stupid trees. So, I'll see if that axle has popped out again. Can you see that? Not really. I don't think it has. I hope it hasn't. No? Okay. We're good. So I've been having problems, or at least I did have a problem with that driver's side axle. And these are insane shafts, and for some reason that driver's side axle was popping out of the trans, and all of my trans fluid was underneath the car. So I actually serviced it for the first time yesterday. I've only put about 1,000 miles on it, and the trans fluid was like non-existent. Like, it wasn't even, like, I pulled the drain plug out and like barely anything fell out of it. So that really worried me. I was really glad that I did it. And I mean, I've been daily driving this car, so I mean, it kind of goes to show what kind of quality is the K series. So anyway, the last time, you know, we did the fuel line. That line goes over, hooks to your fuel filter. Your factory line hooks to that, and that's it. So your fuel pressure regulator, we ran into a problem with that, where I didn't have it turned up enough. So we turned it up to 60 pounds, and it picked up. It was like, boom, it was right on the money. So 50 to 60 pounds, I think, is where you're going to want it. For now, I loop the coolant hoses. It's so hot right now, it really doesn't matter, but it's going to matter pretty soon after, you know, it starts to cool off and stuff. So I haven't put the AC or power steering in it yet either. And you know, it's kind of gonna end up making me appreciate it a little bit more, upgrading this thing, you know, little by little. It's gonna be really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and put a new rack in it because the rack sat open for, you know, 4 years with, you know, crap all in it. So this Koyo rad, if you're going K series, put this in it. I'm dead serious. 2 12-inch spall fans, they do fit. It kind of touches. These are factory hoses. I'm going to change those too, but 12-inch spall fans, Koyo rad radiator, swap radiator. Definitely invest in it because it's probably my favorite thing I've bought. It was easy as pie to bleed. I put the funnel on it. I put the funnel on this thing, and I kind of let it burp while it was running for a little bit, and then I just let it sit overnight. And then when I came in the next morning, I plugged it off, and I haven't had a freaking issue since. This guy right there, you can see a little bit of blue residue on it. Whenever you put that in your intake manifold for the coolant temp, the gauge sensor, make sure you tighten the hell out of that thing, because 2 different times, I tightened that thing up and it still wasn't tight enough, and it kept leaking, and I was like, what the hell? So I tightened it up, finally good to go. So yep, that's pretty much it. It's in there, man. These are TSX accessories. So if you want to run that, you can. You can run a TSX alternator. It's not going to make a difference. You don't have to have an RSX alternator. And also, if you're going to keep ABS. Check this guy out. See that little spot back there behind it where there is no longer paint? This guy, this third leg down here, doesn't line up with that bolt hole right there. So it was just rattling, and it will rattle your teeth at about 2,000 RPM, and it just goes through the whole car. And you're gonna feel it, and you're gonna hear it, and it's gonna drive you nuts. So go ahead and bend this guy up if you're gonna keep ABS. This one, see? Yeah. But I kept that one and this one as those line up. This one back here, I might be able to put another bolt in it, but and then also you're gonna have to keep your eye on this guy right here. So also, as far as clearance goes, when I first put the swap in, I went to that guy first, and then I moved it up. And the reason being is because of that. So that's on the highest setting, and you can clearly see I'm not slammed, you know, not slammed to the earth, dirt nasty low. I am just kind of, you know, clean, fill the, you know, wheel wells, take the gap out, that sort of low. And I had it on the first setting, and driving on the interstate to Nashville, the pavement definitely was introduced to the oil pan a couple of times. So I would definitely suggest either doing something about that. You can run the factory oil pan like I am. I'm eventually wanting to go lower, so I think I'm going to change and do a shallow pan. I don't know. But with these mounts, you flip this one. If you want to go to a higher mount, you flip this one. You go to, as weird as it is, you go to the lower point on the back side, and then the top one over here. So if you're wanting to do that, that's what I did. This is the only part, if you're running the cover, that contacts with the hood. Otherwise, even right there, I wanted to see if the power steering pump was going to hit. I haven't done it yet, but I'm not 100% that it's going to clear. So we might go the electric MR2 power steering setup, you know, that a lot of people do. We might go that route. Another point when swapping, so this is a 8th gen SI slave cylinder. This is, you know, K-tuned, clutch line and all that crap. Definitely just go ahead and put them new. I mean, the master's new, the line's new, the slave cylinder's new. I mean, it just, for ease, like it's so easy. Like, just put it together with new stuff and you're not gonna have a problem. So this shift selector is from a K20Z1, and for the longest time I thought it was different from the A2, and it's not. So your cable shift, or your shifter cable bracket, and your shift selector from the Z1 to A2, they're both the same. So if you have an A2 selector and you find a Z1 shifter, you can run it. You know, if you've got an A2 shifter and you got a Z1 cables, you know, between those two, they're cross compatible. So that's what all of this is. Like, the no-cut shifter is technically a K20A2, but it clears the exhaust, and you don't have to worry about it. So let me show you my favorite part of this whole swap, now that we're done under the hood. Boom, boom. You're online. Hondata app. Boom, boom. This thing is sick, dude. Okay? Freaking sick. I absolutely love it. And you've got so many different settings, like air fuel kind of takes a little bit. There it goes. See? So you really lean at idle, and then it kind of slowly comes down. So with the spall fans, this guy right here, your coolant temp, I've got mine set at 190, and it's fully customizable. You can set it for 160. You know, you can set it for 230,000. I don't know. Maybe you like to not drive your car very long, but I set mine at 190. They kick on with the factory wiring, like the factory Integra wiring. The fan on the passenger side for the actual cooling fan, if you wire up a plug to your spall fans, make sure they're going the right way, of course. For me, being a puller, the blue was positive, the black was negative. You know, if you're mounting them on the other side, it would be reversed. So just make sure you get that right. But literally, I took a plug and cut it off of a donor TSX, wired both fans into it and kind of stepped down and went to a factory plug and plugged the factory Integra wiring fan harness in, and they both kick on. There's no switch. You don't have to do any of that crap. That's what I was worried about. I didn't know if I had to get a radiator that I could put a switch on. You don't have to do it for the conversion harness. You don't have to do any of that crap. Literally, I just plugged it into the factory wiring. That was it. It does it automatically. So when it reaches 190, they kick on, it surges to about 192, and then it immediately drops to 187. That is in standstill traffic, 98 degrees outside, 100% humidity. I mean, you know, the pavement's been baking all day, and I'm sitting here, and it's nice and cool. So I recommend, if you're going to do it, you need to do it right. At least for the parts that count. You can get by on some stuff, but do not put a half-size radiator in your car, man. Especially in a car that came with a full-size radiator. Everybody is like, man, I put a half-size radiator so I can clear some stuff, or, you know, to clean up the engine bay, and then now all I have is overheating problems. Like, dude, screw that, man. That takes away the point of building the car. Like, you build the car, you know, to have fun in the process of building it, but you also build the car to drive it. So it makes no sense to me. Like, why in the hell would you spend all that money and spend all that time when you know you're going to have issues with it? It is amazing. So just do it correctly, please. It's not that hard. You run whatever you want, but in my experience, putting it in the car and just immediately not having any coolant issues, it is awesome. Everyone talks about, you know, having bleeding issues out of the K-Series, having, you know, any kind of coolant issues, blah, 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 whatever. This car has been an absolute jewel. I mean, it's been so nice. Just put that stuff in there and get on the road, man. Have fun with your car. So, Basemap. I had a huge problem with Basemap, and I couldn't get any of the K24, you know, K24A2, you know, stock, Basemap, whatever. For some reason, it just didn't like it. I don't know why, but it did not like those Basemaps. So, for me, I loaded a K24A2 RSX stock RSX tune. Of course, the computer and the wiring harness, the Rywire harness, are both for the 02 to 04. It's PRB ECU, so that might have something to do with it. I thought that no matter what, you go in there and you just kind of change it, which will also come into play in a second. But loaded a PRB factory tune into a PRB ECU, even though Hondata is completely customizable, and for some reason it was like something clicked. Even though it's a K24A, something just was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to have in here. With a K24A2 tune, did not want to run right. It ran decent, you know, at idle and stuff like that. Throttle wasn't very good. You know, I don't think it was a very smooth Basemap, honestly. So the stock K20A2 tune, and you know, loaded in, started up, and then it runs. I mean, it runs, it moves. You're going into gear. You're like, holy shit, this is cool. And it's so plug and play. It's stupid. This is the easiest swap I've ever done on a Honda before. And I had more problems with my CRX going from B series to B series. That was it. I pulled a B series out, tried to put a B series in, and for some reason it didn't. It was like an act of God to get that thing to run right. So this one has been absolutely amazing, man. I put it in there and it runs fantastic. It runs like a factory car. Especially, another reason, 234-9005, I believe, is the part number. It's a Denso air-fuel ratio sensor. Factory 02 to 04 RSX sensor. You need that. You need that. I spent $170 on it. It's pricey, but it is worth it, man. It is so worth it. Get that sensor. You've already got the plug in the conversion harness. You run it down, plug it up, and that's it. You don't have to jump through hoops. You don't have to mount a damn digital gauge anywhere. If you want to go with AEM, that's fine. I didn't want to gauge anywhere. You know, especially with K-Pro V4 being Bluetooth. I Bluetooth it right to my phone. I can see what all that stuff is. And I'm never going to need it anyway. Especially for now, you know, just like on tap, I'm just not going to need that. I'm going to get the car tuned, and that's it. It's going to be set. So, I don't know. There are certain things that I've come to find out about this that you really don't want to cheap out on. You can cheap out on some stuff, but you just really don't want to cheap out on the electronics of this car or of this swap, because you're just going to have tons of issues. So, for simplicity, for reliability, and for not having to do it twice, just go ahead, save the money, you know, put it back if you can't afford it right now. I'm telling you, don't rush and buy cheap ass shit and then put it together and then you hate it and then you're like, okay, well this sucks, you know, this was a terrible idea, you know, then you're just wasting more money. So just do it. It's amazing. It is by far my most favorite Honda I've ever owned, and I've owned a pretty good bit of them and a bunch of different motors, and this is definitely my favorite. So these wheels, the SSR Type 3 Speedstar, I believe, they're going on that jewel over there. And the suspension's going to come out of this one, the Function Form Type 1s. We're going to put them on that car, slam it to the ground. And we are going to get some really, really nice wheels. They're going to have to be repolished, but whenever Gibbs gets back, we are on our way to make about an hour and 40 minute trip, and we're going to get some 15-inch Rotas. They're not actually Rotas, they're knockoffs. I don't know why Spoon tried to copy Rota, but in my opinion, I think the Spoons look better, you know. Or no, I'm sorry. In my opinion, I think the Rotas look better. You know, the Spoons they just don't really do it for me. So we're gonna go get some. We're gonna get the Spoons, and I'm gonna deal with that until I can afford some real Rotas, you know. But that's gonna about wrap it up for right now. And I am going to pull the squeals off the old Integra, and then the steelies off of this guy. the soupmobile. Sad day. Nah, not really. It's actually a really good day. I'm extremely excited for my fake rotas. We gotta lower this thing immediately. They already look a lot better on an EG than they did on the Integra. I think so anyway. I feel like the offset is definitely more aggressive on here than they were on the Integra. So I think it looks good. What are those? Is that BBS wheels on a freaking S10? Dude, it's freaking crazy, dude. Like, how do they even fit? It's America. So, key points on K-swap. K24A swap in particular. Yes, you can use an 8th Gen SI Civic transmission. Yes, you can swap shift selectors out, you know, put an RSX shift selector in a Z3 trans and use the shifter, the cables, the bracket, and the selector. Yes, you can run the car without most of the conversion harness being complete, and your fuel gauge will still work, but nothing else does. Ask me how I know. But with K-Pro V4, you can see all that. You can kind of judge your speed by RPM, and you've got your digital coolant reading out right there. I mean, you know, real time. No, you cannot use your factory Japanese crank sensor in a K24A. Yes, you can put an RSX oil pump in a K24A and use the K24 oil pan. Yes, you can take a 50-degree VTC cam gear, put it on the cam, load a Basemap, and it'd be fine. You don't have to adjust anything. There is no other timing crap. You just have to make sure that the VTC is locked before you time it. So you lock it after you install it on the cam, time it all, put it in there. Literally, I had to do nothing different. What it's doing electronically is that it's reading what a factory RSX would be right now. Yes, the RBC goes on the K20A2 as well, but you're not reading 50 degrees of ignition timing. Yes, you can run a hybrid racing no-cut shifter with the K-tuned header and factory exhaust. I could probably go up to 2.5 inch for the rest of the exhaust and it's still clear. You still have room. You have to drop the exhaust to put the shifter in, but you do still have room after you reinstall everything and button it up. It won't touch. At least with the 2-inch factory stuff. I'm pretty sure I can put 2.5, like I said, but I'm unsure about 3-inch. I don't know. We might experiment a little bit with that soon. So you can do that. Your speed sensor, I haven't been able to figure out why, as far as it being a countershaft driven speed sensor with the Z3 trans. I think I'm going to have to swap some pins because the PRB ECU is not reading speed at all. So I think something is swapped if you're going to use the non-countershaft ECU. Even though you go in and change your settings, I'm pretty sure your pinout is going to be different through the harness than it would be with the countershaft speed sensor. So we're going to go after that soon and figure out what's going on with that. Yes, you can fit a full-size radiator and two 12-inch fans and clear your K24. Yes, you can put a K24 in an Integra on the highest mount setting and the hood's still shut and it won't rub. If you have the cover, it will. Without it, you won't have a problem. I wanted to let you guys know some of the issues that I did have when I first started it. The fuel pressure regulator was one of them. these things do not like to run under like 50 psi. Like, they don't run well at all. Make sure that is 50 to 60 psi for sure. Which of course you might not be able to really, you're not really gonna be able to tune it that well until it's running and sitting there idling, and then you can fine tune it. But turn it up, then set it between 50 and 60, and it's the sweet spot for these. On the Integra, I didn't know this at the time, but there's actually a drain bolt for the fuel tank. And we couldn't figure out for the longest time why this thing was blipping throttle so bad. Whenever you'd hit the throttle, it would like dip really bad and then it'd come back up. And dip really bad, come back up. If you slowly gave it throttle, it was, you know, smooth. As soon as you went to pat the gas, it like it dipped and then it'd shoot back up. So what I didn't know is that that is a characteristic of it not having any fuel. As some people would like to say, it ain't got no gas in it. So I pulled the plug out of the fuel tank and it was literally like cobwebs. It was like, you know, Yellowstone in my freaking gas tank. So I put the car down the road, like right down the road from the dealership when I got it running, and filled it up. I thought my fuel gauge wasn't working, because the whole rest of the cluster was dead. So I was like, well, maybe it's just not working. Well, I was completely chasing a ghost. Make sure it has gas in it. K-Series do not like to run without fuel. They do not like to run without the correct amount of pressure for the fuel. And that's one issue that we had. The next issue, which was actually kind of brought on myself, when we went to Tennessee, I put a battery. I didn't even have time to put a new battery in it. I took a battery out of a car that had been sitting for maybe 5 years and put it on a charger, on a trickle charger, and honestly I thought I'd saved it because for the, you know, first day and a half I drove it, it did fine. Well, I ended up getting in it the next day and the battery was dead, so I had to jump it off every time I started it. So make sure, you know, you've got a good hot battery. Make sure your grounds are good. I ran one ground from the timing cover underneath to one of the mounts for the Hasport mount on the passenger side. I ran it to that stud. Whenever you run that bolt all the way through the frame, I ran it to that stud and put a nut underneath it just to even, you know, clamp it even harder because I don't have that mount welded. And then the next one I did was right on the back of the trans, underneath on the same spot on the driver's side underneath the frame. And you'll see when you get in there, it's not that hard, it's not super complicated, but if there's anything anybody wants to see or they want to know about what I did to this car, look me up on Facebook, Will Knytych, Knytych. Send me a message. I will be more than happy to talk to you. I don't really get on Instagram that much, so it's kind of iffy. I mean, I'll probably respond to you in like a month and a half. I just completely forget that's even a thing for some reason. And or leave a comment on here. You know, leave a like, a comment, whatever, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, or as soon as I see it. For some reason, YouTube doesn't send me notifications for that either. I come in here and I look at my videos, and you know, people have commented, liked, and you know, they say stuff, but I never get notifications for that stuff for some reason. So if there's anything in particular you want to know about what I did on this car that I did not explain, just shoot me a message, you know. That's going to be the fastest way. So with that, I think that kind of sums up what I did, you know, from last video to now. You know, I've gotten some small odds and ends for the car, and now that we're kind of a little bit more up to date, you know, I was crunch time before, so it was really hard for me to pick up the camera and do all this while I was really just trying to fire that thing out, get it running, and, you know, get it going. So with that, we'll probably wrap it up here. And I will show you my wheels in a little bit. I guess that's probably what I'll end the video with. So we've got to go about 2 hours out of the way, go get wheels. I'm still waiting on Gibbs to get back home. I'm literally just kind of lounging in his garage. You know, he's not even here. just waiting on him. So whenever we get the wheels we get back, I will show you what they look like. So we did get them, and they're actually OG Rega Masters. I didn't see what the actual like production date on them was, but they're really, really oxidized. This was just one pass with white diamond cutting compound and just a little Meguiar's foam wheel, and it looks a lot better than it did. So these are 15 by 6.5 plus 42, I believe, and they don't sit exactly how I want them to, but I mean that's a 205/50 tire and it looks really fat. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a different, less sticky tire. Those are our 888s, and they're already shot. I mean, all 4 tires are shot. The car's been sitting a long time, so I gotta get new tires for them. Stick with 205/50s probably, maybe even go up higher and put some spacers on them. Probably look a lot better, but I like the look of them way better. I think they fit the car a lot more. Clearly it'll look better once everything's white. Front lip, better tires. It'll look good, at least for now. So, and then we got that good fitment up here. Woo! Good fitment?
Oh yeah.
About to stick your head in it?
Just about.
Turbocharged D17 A3.
Got the fucking